Hello, all. My name is Alexander Lorenzo. I'm a therapist in the Counseling Services Department at Johnson& Wales University. Today, we're going to talk about internet safety. Now, with a title like that, you might be thinking, this is a course for your 80-year-old grandparents who are just getting their first laptop, and you need to warn them about phishing and malware. Well, that's not exactly what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to try to do is identify high-risk behaviors for young adults and how to mitigate those risks. So, after participating in this training, you should be able to do the following. Identify some examples of high-risk online behaviors. Have an understanding of what the negative impacts of engaging in these behaviors could be, and learning strategies that could really reduce your risk when you're online. So, how is the internet impacting you? If we read any articles about internet usage, whether it's excessive or safe, it always kind of starts with the same idea, that the internet is not really a good thing or a bad thing. It just is. It's a thing that's out there in our world that we engage with every day. It doesn't really have a value. When we think of some things that might have a value that we know, I think of a risk behavior, say, like smoking cigarettes. We all know there's not a lot of upside to doing that. There's really only downsides. Then when you think about something else that we engage with all the time, say, like money. Money is not necessarily good or bad, but it really depends what we're doing with it. So to use that metaphor, the internet is kind of similar. What are we doing with it? How are we engaging with it? And then what is the impact on us? After logging in some serious hours online, is this what you look like? So if we go off the idea that the internet is neither really a good thing or a bad thing, just something we're engaging with, then these potential risk behaviors are kind of similar. If you're doing them in a safe and reasonable way, then there could be some risks, but you could probably mitigate them. The problem comes in when we're excessively using them, or we're putting ourselves in high-risk scenarios based on the people that we're meeting online. So if you look at this list, I'm sure you could look at this and identify at least one or two things that you probably engage with every day. Binge watching, excessive gaming, social media use, and going on hookup or stranger meetup apps. These are all things young adults, teenagers, and older adults do, I would say, fairly regularly. But what are we doing with them? Are we sitting there playing games for 9, 10 hours straight, neglecting our self-care, not engaging with our real lives? Are we waking up in the middle of the night to do a raid with our friends who live in Germany because that's the only time they can go on? So then we're missing class the next day. Are we meeting kind of sketchy people online, but not really thinking about what some of the consequences could be once we start engaging with them or decide to meet up with them in person? I would also add to this list gambling and pornography. Also, very readily available content and behaviors we can engage in online that can also have a lot of negative impacts on our physical and mental health. So, what are some of the negative impacts of excessively and chronically engaging in these behaviors? Well, here's just a small list of really how we can start to feel once we're doing this. I would say one of the bigger risks is developing addictive like behaviors to binge watching, to gaming, to going on social media, hookup apps. it really starts to change the way our brain functions because this becomes a source of rewards for us. And there's anxiety when we're not engaging in it. If you look at some of the other ones, some of them have to do with our physical health, such as, when we are sedentary for hours and hours at a time, binge watching on our phones, etc. We're probably not caring for ourselves that well, probably not eating that well, probably not too motivated. Sleep, definitely a factor that is impacted by these behaviors. And really just the effects of social isolation and the increases in depression that I see as a therapist when people are spending excessive amounts of time engaging in these behaviors. So how are we going to reduce our risk online? Well, first, what we need to do is really evaluate what our online presence is and how much time we're spending on this every day. One of my favorite things to do with students is to have them take their phone out and tell me what their screen time is every day. And a lot of times I find that they're surprised by it, that their screen time is 7 or 8 hours a day, mostly on YouTube and social media. And then they will typically tell me, well, that's not even including what I do on my computer. So if your screen time is 10, 12, 13 hours a day, then it's time to think about how that might be impacting you. So start by evaluating it and then work on strategies to moderate your daily usage. Break up your periods of usage with some healthy behaviors that you can engage in. Change up in your environment. Go outside. Do something different. Keep up on the basics, the phishing, the malware, the having strong passwords, and protecting your online identity. Take all things you see on social media and any news you see on social media with a grain of salt. You know it may not be real. And absolutely a must. If you're going to meet somebody in person that you know from the internet or you've met on a hookup or dating app, use an excess of caution. Screen them, make sure you understand who they are the best you can. And if you're going to meet up with them, try to do it in a public place with friends and certainly let people know what your location is. So I hope this brief training gave you a sense of how to consider what the impacts of the internet and your behaviors online are, and how you might be able to reduce your risk and any of the negative impacts you're feeling going forward. If you ever find that you or a friend need assistance with really anything that you're dealing with, you can always call counseling services. Our main number is here on this slide. Currently with COVID, we are providing essentially telehealth services online, but we'd be happy to see you. Thank you and have a good day.